шанс послушать ученого международного уровня. Это наш коллега, профессор Ахмет Мермут. Профессор Мермут – выпускник сельскохозяйственного факультета университета Анкара в Турции. И на протяжении своей творческой деятельности он работал и в Вагенингене, в Государственном сельскохозяйственном университете, в университете Саскачевана, а сейчас является профессором почвоведения в университете Харрана в Турции. Почвовед с огромным международным опытом в почвенной минералогии, генезиса почв. Очень активно деятельность проводил в Канаде и в США, почетный член Международного союза почвоведения. В общем, мы очень рады приветствовать профессора Мермута. И сегодня второй его доклад. Я благодарю всех, кто нашел возможность присоединиться к нашему семинару. Мне кажется, что мы сейчас прослушаем очень интересное сообщение, и будет много вопросов. Сейчас я перейду на английский, и в дальнейшем язык нашего общения будет английский. Однако, если кто-то хочет задать вопрос, и неудобно ему задавать на английском, пожалуйста, спрашивайте на русском. Переведем, я думаю, общими усилиями, или пишите вопросы в чат. Okay, now I switch to English. I'm happy to use my privilege to introduce you Professor Ahmet Mermut, the internationally recognized soil scientist who is a honorary member of the International Union of Soil Science. He served as an editor of the Canadian Journal of Soil Science, contributed to several special issues of Geoderma Journal, and now we are happy to host him at our department, Soil Science Department of the Moscow State University. Well, Dr. Mermut, now the floor is yours. Please share your presentation.
Okay. I should click that on there.
You got an assistant.
All right.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga. I appreciate it very much. Although I did not understood just completely what you have said, but as I more or less followed, and my capacity with respect to Russian is very limited, just a few words. But I figured it out, and I had a little book with me and learning expressions and also words. But it's I was looking at my briefcase and I couldn't find it. But it looks to me it's not a really difficult language to learn. But it's a question of time. Who knows? I'm really quite happy to be here and quite happy to really discuss a matter that was my interest for some times in my early career. And in North America, this is where I spend quite a bit of my time, and scientifically and also environmentally. It's a continent, North America, especially Canada. When I go to the northern direction, and I was in central part of Siberia, center, south, north, from Kazakh border to Khanty-Mansiysk, and I was really very surprised to see the similarity between the two continents, and this is not surprising, because when you just bring the continent together, you can see that it's more or less the extension of each other, and same landscape, same type of vegetation, geology, and I think in soils as well. So therefore, people have learned quite a lot from early stage of soil science that was developed by Dokuchayev in this country. And the first journal, I was very surprised because I'm going to write and hoping to get it published within a year or so in Springer as a book, and maybe over 1,000 pages or something like that, in Handbook of Pedology. And basically, I just wanted to have a little close contact with my Russian colleagues and make them sure. And I had a very good discussion before yesterday, and I hope that we'll bring this ideology in fruition, so that we can excite a little bit. My idea is to excite younger generation, and I strongly recommend to the administrator to provide conditions for younger generations to go abroad. Abroad doesn't mean that you go a place where the conditions is better. I think it may be anywhere. And I worked in Africa, South America, and I was really quite happy with what I have learned and through my experience in those places. So how can I, this one? Oh no. Okay, I want to recognize two international figures that my youthful stage, they influenced me quite a bit. First is late Professor Yalon from Israel, and I visited him in his home, and this picture is historical. And I nominated him to receive first Dokuchayev Award, that is designed by IUSS, International Union of Soil Science, now is strongly in place and it's going on. And the second guy is that I want to recognize, I'm really thankful eternally to Pete Bering, and he was a professor of tropical soil science, although Turkey is not a tropical country, but he developed a project and came at the time that I was doing my PhD in Turkey, in Ankara. Then I have joined his team and studied soils not only in Turkey together 4 years, but at the same time, he gave me the opportunity to work in the Netherlands. And then later on, and I think it's linguistically, and I was really feeling quite happy with English and German. And I have learned German and English. They are two associated, very close languages. I figured it out, although it's too far away. It was too far away from my native tongue. But I'm interested in etymology. And then through the etymology, I figured it out that two close languages. But he's also passed away. This is the world, and the human being come and go. But the words expressed and works people have done through their life span and remains in this world and creates conditions for generations to come. So therefore, I am really quite happy to say that these two people. And modern soil science that we now say is the creation of late again professor and scientist, and great promoter Dokuchayev, and soil map, and has been historically one of the early major activities in soil science. This is extremely important statement I'm making it. And soil mapping, because then they were trying to understand, okay, soil is such and such, whatever the ideology people had it. But then mapping was extremely important activity. And I don't see very much these days, the soil mapping and field trips and touching to the soils, etc. I think, in my view, unless you touch it, no matter what technology you have it, but I'm not satisfied personally when I don't touch the soil profile. Take the sample, analyze it, and then I can start my imagination. Yes, digital soil mapping these days is a tool. There's no question about it, and maybe more accurate. But then I think we should not forget about what our predecessors, people in this country and elsewhere in the world. And I must say that the students after Dokuchayev, Glinka and Sibirtsev, and they are also very influential. And I try to read and understand it through the translation to either English or German language, so that I could see what is discussed as what are the ideology, so that I can extend my visions and ideology. And definitely early reflect of strong influence of bedrock geology. And in United States or in Canada, geology is considered a very strong basis. The rock, the first factor, number one factor is geology. I think I accept that this is very important. As a mineralogist, I'm interested also in mineralogy in addition to organic matter. And during his time, he mentioned climate, vegetation, geomorphic principles, which means topography, and for detailed soil survey and land taxation. And definitely people have added afterward some additional things that they have seen it, but basically he set the stage, he set the strategy, how soil are formed and what happened to it. As we all know, considered as a soft rock, and soil science is part of the earth sciences. Here might be different, and I have heard that there's a strong influence of biology. Okay, it's no problem. Biology is also extremely important. And biology is important as we try to understand these days organic matter. I should admit, from my own perspective, say this, and in early stage, I say organic matter, 1, 2, 3%, forget about it. But then I discovered that just little percentage of organic matter play a very, very important role, extremely important role in soil science. Now, going back to the history in 1880, there's two people, Major John Wesley Powel. I understand that he was mostly geologist, and Eugene Hilgard from Berkeley, the guy who first time established a college of agriculture, and he was the founding dean, as dean faculty of agriculture in the United States. Both guys were trying to get together and try to understand one side geological mapping and on the other side soil mapping. And then in my capacity today, and I see the relationship, but can you imagine these two gentlemen would not agree and come together? And one proposed, John Wesley proposed as a geologist, soil map and soil mapping as we should, and soil people, agricultural people should join, and then one side geological mapping and the soil mapping will take together. But then, unfortunately, they did not agree, and even today, as we scientists in this generation, we don't agree each other in all aspects as what we discuss it. And to me, and I think this was a golden opportunity, maybe geology and soil science together, But then when I look at the perspective today in Russia, if my understanding is right, and that you look at more from biological standpoint of view and in comparison to geology, and it really doesn't matter which way we look at it. It is the soil itself, and that we should understand it. And this is where the life starts and life ends. We should look at from that perspective. And in 1890, then you established Počvovedenia is 1899, the first journal in the world on soil science. And that's really massive contribution. And but on the other side, while there's two guys, they were talking to each other and they were not accepting each other's ideology, all of a sudden, Milton Whitney, successfully established soil survey within the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. And in North America, we still have the soil survey, and in majority of the activities going on in central part of the country. And what happened, I think the beauty that I'm familiar very much, that in 1924, almost 100 years ago, and there will be a meeting 2 years from now in Italy, and commemoration of the 100 years of establishment of International Society of Soil Science. And the first conference was in Washington in 1927, and then followed in other parts of the world. And what happened in 20th century? And I will go back to my own province in Saskatchewan, Canada. This is the map that I'm showing. So Saskatchewan is really zones that you have it here, which I have established. When I stepped and I start working on soils and I saw the zonality, I said, my goodness, yes, it is here. It's a reality. What Dokuchaev has preached and established, it's working here. And you can come and you will be my guest. I will be quite happy to receive you there. Olga, you too. And so to show you this zonality, and you will say, my goodness, yeah, it looks like the same. And in the north, we have Canadian Schilt, which is basically a rock, and there's little soil out there, but more water bodies, lake systems, and it's a really fantastic landscape. And I haven't gone as north of Khanty-Mansisk, and that's parallel 63, if I'm right. And I'm sure that you have this landscape as much as we do have in Canada. What I like is, I have mentioned the other day, a geologist established deglaciation history. Those lines are, starting from 10,000 here and 7,000 years of history, deglaciation. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see it in the field. And then I started to calculate the age of the soil, where I dug the pit, and so then I could say, well, this soil is this age, and it's my age calculation, nobody else, based on the deglaciation history of the country. So then when I started to look at the accumulation of organic matter or secondary carbonate the other day, I have indicated. So then I could calculate quite nicely. And I was looking at such situation in Siberia, and then I was told that Siberia was not glaciated, and so that probably you wouldn't have this situation there. But elsewhere in the Soviet, in the Russian Federation, anyhow. And if you are, well, Saskatchewan, where is Saskatchewan? This is North America. Everybody knows this map. And then Saskatchewan is right up right up here. So it's more or less in the center. In the west, we have Alberta and British Columbia. And then this is international territory. And luckily, we have this island part of Canada, and then this Gulf, and I was there. And it's a beautiful place. Olga, you should come and see those places. I was looking at the clays at one time. Interesting enough, this part is marine sediments, and this part is just rocks of Appalachian Mountain. Then the clay minerals, clay mineralogy, east and west is totally different. Anyhow, this is what it is. And that zonality, once again, is reflected here, black soils and brown soil and gray soils, and etc. Is when you look at the color itself, then you say, well, it's really there. And these are the zones of Saskatchewan, and then zonality, once again, is nicely mentioned here. This is the granitic rock area. But when you look at the names of the unit, map unit, has nothing to do with any classification in the world. By the time that people have done this, in 1920s, they have started in Canada, and they have taken samples from that time, and we can make a comparison today, go to the same area, and find out what happened to your soils since almost 100 years, almost 100 years, well, exactly 100 years. In 1920s, they have taken samples. And then when you look at the names, and it is just geological, and maybe geomorphological, whatever ideology that they have taken, they created units. And then today, in soil classification, in soil science, I think we have a lot of trouble. But they took it very simplistic way when they were developing this idea. And I have shown you brown soil, dark brown, black, and gray. There's a big differences in organic matter. You can see it in total organic matter, from brown to Grago-black Chernosium, what we call we use Chernosium and your black soil ideology in Canadian taxonomy, but it may not be in exactly the same sense you have it. Lots of terminology we're taking in early stage of classification from Russia, and we need this collaboration. There's no question about it. And I spend quite a bit of time in IUSS, International Union of Soil Science, and Division 1, and I was active for about 12 years. Then it's by chance, and I started with International Society of Soil Science, then International Society of Science converted to International Union of Soil Science. Then I was lucky enough to really be there, and about 12 years. That's quite a long time. And then it was my time when I was, I am the first chairman of Division 1 and soil morphology and micromorphology. And it was micromorphology that I converted to soil morphology. And how can you do micromorphology without soil morphology? And so here we are, soil geography, genesis, classification. I'm sure that you all know it. Pedometrics and paleopedology were the two commissions that I struggled personally. And there was suggestions, and I struggled, and we have now 6 commissions, and quite happy to say that this is what it is now. And I would remind people listening to me that 2 years from now, there will be an international congress of soil science in Italy. Italians are working very hard, and because establishment is 1926, and so will be, and even an Italian guy, a friend of mine, is going to chair this session, this international congress. I think that these are a very good opportunity, and we can talk about freely what is right, what is wrong, what is that we have done it, our ancestors, and so on. And you see, I personally don't know what the international boundaries are. International boundaries and international boundaries. All right, I have no problem with that. But as we scientists communicate with technology, we have it now. I think as we're in a much better condition to communicate. In early 20th century, and to my surprise, and it should be to your surprise also, agricultural management. And so classification, we bogged down a lot with terminology, this classification, that classification, and so on. I'm not against classification, but it's very difficult. Soils are not like plants and animals, animal kingdom, plant kingdom, so that you can use a noun and everybody's level understands the taxonomy, etc. But soils changes from one place and another place, and even one unit area. When you look at them, and I like the idea agro-ecological maps. Agro-ecological maps. So what it means is this means that directly one can use it without bogging himself or herself down with taxonomy. Agro-ecological maps produced even today in Hungary. And I'm sure in elsewhere. In Saskatchewan, very funny. And because they were working on glacial till, so understanding of deglaciation, etc., then soil maps were used to establish geology of Saskatchewan. It's just a note that I want to indicate to you and so on. The agro-geological model areas are generally small territories from a few 100 meters square to 250 kilometers square. And there we have geology, we have pedology, we have agriculture, we have silviculture and forest and environmental protection. These days we are really very much concerned about environmental protection because that's for human survival, for the benefit of humankind. And then shallow boreholes with high density, 50 to 500 meters. Borehole distances, as people have utilized in the past. So I don't see it that today we do this, and we should be doing it no matter what. And it's very good to reduce the amount of the field work and the walk or drive and all the way to the top of the mountain and to the valley, etc. And we have now gadgets, we have methodologies to reduce substantially the amount of the field work that we do it. But studying soils in that natural science is nothing is exchangeable, in my view. And recent ecological and environmental studies open a new perspective for future pedogeological mapping, in my view. This requires to investigate geological and soil condition and properties of different biomass, and this means biology, biomass, and environmental conditions. We have gone full circles. Now I can see in Italy, Spain, and Hungary, new combined maps produced. I think this is very important and very exciting in my view. And this is what I mean. As you see, satellite imagery, physiography, lithology, soil type, land cover, slopes, and GIS, you put them together and you have you have a really very reliable and very useful. And when you are in touch with especially farmers don't understand your taxonomy and the words, especially Latin words and very strange word that we soil scientists have developed. I am not against the soil taxonomy, etc. Everything helps our understanding of soil system, no question about it. But these are new visions and ideology. And here we have another map of natural land system in Spain. Then if we look at the map unit, it's quite funny, but it's very useful. When you want to utilize this, it's quite useful, in my view. Soil dryness classification, and no way that you can get this kind of information from previous stage of soil mapping. Soil dryness classification. What do I do with soil dryness? Oh, I think it's a lot of information is here when it comes to proper use and management of soil. Proper use and management of soil, I think one should stop here. Proper use and management. Yes, of course. In my view, soil classification is meant to really pass information from one stage to another or one country to another, but not for general purposes. But this kind of approach is going to, well, it's now as more actively involved in use and management that we need it very much, because the world has 7 billion population. What if that at the end of this century, they talk about 30 billion? I hope that it will not reach 30 billion. This world will not reach to that level. And then 7 to 30 is almost 4 or 5 times. And where we are going to get food to really feed the mankind in and around the world, I think these are the things that we have to think about it. With rapid emerging technologies, such as the use of GIS and GPS, remote sensing and computational system, now enable soil scientists and enable us to produce more reliable data for the management and monitoring of the soil resources. I'm very much interested in soil resources, world soil resources. I spent about a year sabbatical in Rome, and I was convinced that the resources we have, at least in my capacity, I can say, is enough for 100 or 200 years without too much a problem. Resources are there, but utilizing of these resources requires still continuous work on it, but at the same time increase the amount of quality, high quality production to feed the world. New development of soil survey, while becoming more complex, but to me, and I think as I accept this ideology, that it's more reliable. And here we are, voila, and superimposed map of land use. This is quite interesting. I think it would be interest to people living in Russian Federation, and to me, as much as when we look at North America here, and then India and Pakistan and China in a way. And we could see that many places we do not have the condition to produce enough food. But for FAO, like organization and many organizations, I think for every country, and this looks like is quite interesting. If we didn't have the technology, no one could produce. This is produced in the USA by somebody superimposing hundreds of images on top of each other, and then they finally got this. Is quite impressive in my view. And this is North America. And Saskatchewan is somewhere here, and it's the same map as but close enough for the North America. And okay, now I just picked up some idea, agro-ecological zones. By the time I was spending some time in Africa, in Rome, Italy, then I noticed that the sub-Saharan Africa is a tremendous resource to produce food for mankind. I studied here in Sudan and Ethiopia, and in part as Kenya and Somalia, in this small portion. But when you come here, this green area, a lot of water, sweet water that you can utilize the whole world. And this lake systems, and you can see in agro-ecological zones in here. And this is the world map based on, I just as for ourselves to remember, an American soil taxonomy and taxonomical maps of the world. And then digital soil mapping. Alfred Harteming is a close friend of mine. He's a Dutchman, but now he's a professor at university in America. And he was also quite active in IUSS. He was the Secretary General for some times. And digital soil map. And here we are, a new avenue, digging into Canadian soil. Then I find that it's a lot of new information. It's nice, beautiful puzzle profile, they put it there. And I think they are doing an appreciable amount of work there as well. And this is carbon credit value. My goodness, if we look at this kind of digitized map and produced by USDA in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's quite impressive. And in regular soil mapping, we couldn't go this much detail in the past, but we can do it now. But in my view, regardless, I want to see in my capacity, I want to see those land pieces, an area delineated in their natural site, so that my soul will settle down and will be happy before I can decide to make the next stage. Here we have the conclusion. It is time to think about, again, for close collaboration between geologists and pedologists. I think it's also, I have written this, but definitely, most definitely the biologist for mapping of land masses, for many use and management of land masses that mankind need them today, for the food security and for happiness and well-being of mankind. And this is what I can say. Thank you very much. And I will be quite happy to receive any reaction, any questions, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mermut, for the very interesting presentation of the comprehensive historical review. Please, if anybody got a question, you can raise your hands or you can speak. No. Before questions arrive, I would like Dr. Mermut to send you greetings from Graham Spires.
Graham Spires?
Graham Spires, he is watching us by YouTube, and he sends his greeting to Dr.
Graham
Mermut
Spires,
from
my goodness.
Many years since we last met.
Yes, Graham Spires, and I know him very well. And my greeting to him as well.
Yes.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. I am not an expert in soil mapping and cartography. That's why my question maybe is naive.
Well, it may be anything, as it doesn't matter, because the soil maps and cartography and whatever you would like to call it is meant for mankind, as for the betterment of life.
So I did not understand the relationships between pedologic and geological mapping in the United States, because first you mentioned some historical materials, and then you switched to these technologies which combine a lot of sources. So how is it in the United States and in Canada? How these two organizations interact, geological and
geologist is definitely looking at the rocks and minerals, and their discoveries or their interest was much ahead of soils people. Soil people emerged as much later than geologists, and so therefore geologists wanted to have a soil survey under their jurisdiction. And their ideology was that soil derived from parent rocks. And yes, in a way, but we have biology, it's organic matter, and the slope and many other factors involved, and humankind and all those things, and that they didn't realize that it's just an extension of geological material. And then soil people, when they, and this is my perception as well, the surface part consists of basically parent material and ground and physically and chemically changed, biologically influenced material. But then geologic material, you don't have organic matter. I think it's the way one can look at it. And Mars soil, for instance, sooner we are going to touch material brought up from Mars, hopefully, and Mars as material probably is more a geological material than the soil, the way that we perceive. But our perception of soil descriptions or understanding of the soil system is going to change.
So are you saying that soil survey is under the jurisdiction of geological system?
They wanted.
Soil maps in the United States, they're influenced by geological proxies or what?
I think initially geologists wanted to own everything. Own soil, I think is my perception today. And soil is not really meant for agriculture alone. Soil science is not developed for the benefit of agriculture today. We talk about arrays of biology. Without biology, it's even a couple of percentage of organic matter, but I discovered that biology plays a very significant role. And perhaps that's one of the difference. Soils have it and geology don't have it. And they wanted to have under their jurisdiction. But later on, people developed their own idea, and they established soil survey unit, and within the agriculture, the Ministry of Agriculture, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and then today is still under that jurisdiction. But I think that struggle initially is put more emphasis on parent material than any other factors. But then we discovered that landscape and organics, as biology, plays a really extremely significant role. Now people talk about space. Without space, you cannot develop, and time. Time is also an extremely important factor for soil formation. Geology, once your geological material set there, you know that you can use several methodologies to determine their age, but that's it. But soil exists right from the beginning of the solar system.
Okay,
I'm not
thank
sure
you.
whether I answered your question.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Dr. Yulia Mishalkina. Yulia,
I noticed her. She's listening very carefully what I have said. I appreciate it very much. Please
Yulia
go
is
ahead.
expert in pedometric and some other subjects.
Fantastic.
Yulia, please, Julia.
Many thanks for your presentation and for your speech. My question is not for the geology, but for your experience as pedologist. Could you please describe the difference between black soil in Canada and Chernozem in Russia?
Yeah.
Are they the same, or there are some big differences?
No, I think the conceptual concept of Chernozem is taken from Russia. And in early stage, we had a couple of very good pedologists immigrated to Canada, and then they tried to establish. But to me, the way that I have seen Chernozem in your country, in Russian Federation, then the Chernozem we talk about in Canada is not the same, more or less. But Cherno, and I understand that means black, and Zemia is soil, black soil, and we can translate it. Literal translation is black soil. But the idea of the way that you describe, Professor Krasilnikov is now working on this Chernozem around the world, and I asked him the other day, he asked me to talk about a little bit of Chernozem in Canada. In my capacity, I put something for his benefit, but it looks like that it's not published or it's not gone too far. And I think the ideology, basic principles are the same. And even we have, for instance, for the benefit of discussion, we have Solonchak, and which is your terminology, is utilized in Canadian taxonomy. But then I discovered that they don't recognize vertisol, and you don't recognize vertisol either. But recently in Buryatia, someone found vertisol, because I had a very big discussion with the American colleagues, and finally they said we are wrong, because definition of vertisol, we had it, and restricts soil. You can't restrict the soil formation with temperature alone. And they were saying, well, Canada is too cold, as vertisol cannot be formed. That was absolutely wrong. And so I was able to really convince the Americans, and they came, and I am quite happy that someone has discovered also. I was very sure that in a conditions that we have, the way that I have found it in Western Canada, and this is marine sediments, where we have a lot of smectite and swelling clays. Perfect examples of cracking, number one, and slickenside. This giant slickensides that I have it. I have asked Larry Wilding from Texas A&M University to come and join me, and so on. And I really moved a little bit away from your question, but conceptually, as people have taken the idea, but when I make a comparison, it's not the same as to answer your question properly.
Thank you very much. Are there more questions, please?
Can I ask?
Please go ahead, yes.
Dear Professor Mermut, thank you very much for your presentation, because I am absolutely agree with this idea, because we in the past time we have many interesting papers and works about geology, about the weathering, about the connection or relations between.
I am so happy that you're saying this.
Sorry.
I am extremely happy that you are saying this. You're sharing my ideas. We vibrate at the same level.
I share it. Yes, I remember you very well, because we were in some conference together with Victor Targulian.
Victor Targulian,
yes. And I remember you very well, and in Moscow, and it seems that
Appreciate
in
very much.
many years ago. I was also there. But my question is, what do you think about the idea, or maybe some concept, that the close relations between geology and parent material and soil and soils are strong expressed in the areas of relatively short time of weathering? For example, in the areas of the past glaciers, in the mountains, and so on. But these relations and the difference of soil cover, which depends on geology, is smaller, is not such strong in, for example, in the humid tropics, where the time of weathering is very long, and there is some maybe convergence, yes, of soils. Yes. What do you think about it?
I think this is, I appreciate this very much. Your question is very appropriate to me. Is definitely, and 95% and more of the soil system, it consists of an non-organic mineral material. And where does it come from? From parent material. What means parent material is basically geology. And I am sorry to say that I don't see even papers published today about soil minerals, weathering, and new formation, new minerals. And so at my early stages, we used to do a lot of work on this. But I don't see people and professors listening this, and I'm asking everybody, when you really give subject matter to your students, please tell them that minerals, rocks and minerals, understanding of rocks and minerals is extremely important for the soil system. Yes, and recently I found 10 million years of a soil derived from basalt in southeastern Turkey, and buried to maybe 40-50 meters and maybe 2 levels. I don't know, I just discovered very recently. 10 million years, and derived from basalt. And if you don't know what means basalt, and so then you're stuck with understanding of the soil system. And first time in my life, and I have seen beautiful siliconsites, minerals that are present in basalt, ferromagnesian minerals, lots of iron, and that is converted to oxides and gives red color, and siliconsites, beautiful siliconsites. And I have seen it, and I could consider that soil as a vertisol, an ancient vertisol. But you can imagine a lava, which is a couple of 100 degrees of temperature and flowing over a soil system, will not only bury, but also burn all organic matter in the soil system. I just recently took some samples that I'm going to find out in texture, structure, carbonate content, and clays, and so on. And yeah, I think geology cannot be neglected. But on the other side, I see the influence of biology here, and I really appreciate that very much. To tell you the truth, I think that is extremely, extremely important. Understanding of organic matter, how organic matter interact. Now we emphasize, in Canada, we emphasize organo-mineral microbial interactions.
Microbial also.
Yes, organo-mineral microbial interactions.
But microbial is organic also.
Yeah, of course. And what I mean to say is that important, and biology is also important in this regard. Geology, biology, and then soil, environment, all together. And when you put them together, it makes some sense, more sense, I suppose.
So it means that the life of soil, yes, the living organism of soils, their importance is emphasized in this idea, yes?
Yes, exactly. Yes. And we should, in microscopic level, million times of magnification, and molecular level. Now we are trying to understand, and we know I studied quite a bit of clay minerals, silicate clay, and then I know the structure, and then I can say that this ions, or organic or inorganic, it doesn't matter, is hidden here. And can you imagine one single sodium ion carries 12 molecules of water all the time? But it's not attached completely, but it's, when it travels, then it leaves some molecules of water and then takes another water. So I think this is probably beginning of life. We don't understand and how an inorganic system becomes organic. Organic means it's life, moving substances. But I think physiology, if we understand the physiology of the system, probably we may be able to understand the life, how life, a material takes life and later on become lifeless. And that organics, we understand it. Conditions we know, and without water, we cannot survive. No biological substances can survive without water. We know this very well. But then clay mineralogists think that clays and silicate clays played a very, very significant role in life on Earth. Yeah. And how much is right, we don't know. As I think what I'm saying is, now, as we have from microscope to electron microscope, and now we have atomic microscope, etc., and atomic force microscope. And I think as the gadgets become available for mankind, we are going to dig out and learn. And in my early stage, I was just thinking, okay, so many great scientists passed through this world, and they have discovered, and it must be finished. No, a lot that we don't know. We have to dig and continue seriously. We have to be extremely serious in this regard.
Yes, you are. Oh, thank you very much. It is a short additional lecture.
Well,
thank you very much. I am very glad to see you again.
Well, I'm very glad to see you as well.
Yes, unfortunately, really I cannot be visible because of some problems with camera.
Okay. Well, I really very appreciate it, and I thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, may I also ask a question?
Oh, sure. Here we are.
Well, Ahmet, first, your excellent lecture is very much appreciated. Sorry, I couldn't join from the very beginning, but fortunately I heard the major part of your presentation. And for me, it is also I'm very curious about the use of geological information and linking geological and soil surveys, because currently, as far as I understand, we have an opposite movement. We're moving back to the very agronomic approach to soil science and soil survey, especially because of the use of all this remote sensing data, the use of spectroscopic data, and they're investigating all in the surface layer. And they say that's enough. That's
no way
we want to know. But in fact, it is not true. Please, can you give your reflection on that?
Yes, no question about it. I think this is what I try to say. I think as you more or less reflected my visions and views about this, and we cannot simplify and go to our room and small room and with our computer and try to understand or discover the whole world. That's absolutely wrong. That's the reason why I have said is I wouldn't really sell it in a bit as that soil should be studied in their natural site. Then we have to go there. Like our ancestors, they did go to the top of the mountain. They worked with glaciers and glacial materials. And also they studied rock as much as geologists have done it. But I would like to see more paper in this regard in Eurasian soil science about soil minerals, and etc. And weathering, and just like our ancestors have done it. That has to continue. That's a real soil science. But what agronomical aspect is the application of it. That's fine. And I don't want to do, I don't want to create a map for nothing, just a simple map that I can put it on the wall and say, well, this is my creation. I've done a nice, colorful soil map. And I think that's not enough on the other side. And while this is not enough, but on the other side, it's just a map produced in a small place with computers and science, computer science and so on, is not satisfactory from my own perspective.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
I think we're on the same wave in this respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that we are. As much as I know your past studies and your views and visions. Yeah, I think we are on the same side, in the same club or whatever. Yeah.
Микрофон, Ольга, микрофон.
Sorry, are there more questions? I don't see more questions. Then probably comments. Probably we can discuss somehow.
We'll be quite happy to listen comments.
Pavel, would you like to give some comments?
Well, in fact, maybe just general admiration for our honorable guest who made two different talks during these days, and these talks were excellent and related to two different sides of our science. Well,
exactly. You got
the
it.
Dynamics and the statical distribution of soil properties and soil bodies. Well, both of the topics are of major importance for understanding. Well, soil as a natural body and interacting with their environment and so on. Well, I think it's very basic. It's basic for pedology. Okay. And so on behalf of, I think, of the staff of our faculty and also of all the guests who attending these meetings, these workshops during this week. I would like to express our great gratitude to Ahmet that he managed to come here in the most difficult time for all of us.
Absolutely.
Most complicated situation. But anyway, he managed to come, he managed to join us and to, well, give the highest standards of science one can imagine in pedology. I hope you successfully went to the museum in the main building.
Oh, excited, very much excited. It was too quick, but I was absolutely excited. I was on the 33rd floor and I have never been there. I was in that building a couple of times, but not 33rd. Thanks to Olga. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, they have restoration works in the museum and not all the floors are open now for visitors. But anyway, for me also, each time I go there, it is a big impression.
Yes.
For tomorrow, you know that you have a visit to the Timiryazov Agricultural Academy. Well, Professor Ivan Vasilyov will attend you there at 10 o'clock in the reception of the hotel. Young lady, research officer from our faculty will meet you in the reception. Her name is Anna. She has your telephone number, and I will also send her telephone number to her, not to repeat our mistakes.
Okay.
On Saturday. And I think we'll take care of you, and if something will happen, you can call me and we'll arrange everything. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I think now we can close the session of our school, Future Planet. And thank you everybody who attended. Thank you, Dr. Mermut, Professor Mermut, for the interesting lecture and for your courage. And you, from your side, you also inspired us a lot. You gave us kind of inspiration for future plans, for future work. Yes, thank you so much. And
thank
then
you very much, Olga.
The meeting is over. Сергей Валерьевич, мы закончили. I said it because we have the translation. I think we can finish, close the session.